All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to Talking Investing. You got Tom, we got George. How are you, George?
Good. How are you guys?
Weird day. So we'll talk about Bitcoin. Obviously, we got the big news of the day today. We had a very strange day, and the Bitcoin miners had a big rally today. So we're going to look at all of that. We're going to talk Bitcoin miners. What is next is the big question. And we'll get into what we think. We'll see what you guys think. And Bitcoin is fighting as we speak to hold a critical level. So we'll look at that as well. So hello, everybody. Hello to all of our members. I see a bunch of you guys in here. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. Hello to all of the subscribers. Hello to everybody. While I'm at it, if you guys could please smash the like button. It does help the live stream out in real time. Big time. We got 22 likes. We're going for 100, and then we're going for 200. We got to get back to the old days and get some people in here. So we appreciate your help if you would be so kind. Let us know in the chat if you can hear me and you can hear George, and make sure everything's operating properly. I see the real Gary Ginsler, who is a member, said 63K. I'm not sure what that was in regards to. That is price prediction, perhaps. Oh, and the real Gary Ginsler said flash crash to 53K. So was this a flash crash? I mean, it certainly was a flash crash, but the question is, what is next? Because we went to some numbers that a lot of people didn't think we were going to see. Fear. We're going to talk about the fear and greed index, overall panic. I spent the entire day today, I will tell you, watching as many people as I possibly could, large YouTube channels throughout. I probably watched 20 plus videos today just to get a sense of what everybody else is hearing out there and what everybody else is saying. And, you know, and I will tell you, this is the most negative day I've seen since the bear market on YouTube, across YouTube. There was one video that was extremely bullish. For the most part, people are afraid, and a lot of people have flipped. I know this frustrates a lot of probably a lot of you guys. I know it frustrates the heck out of me when you know, people on YouTube or whatever the social media is, when they just do these gigantic flip-flops. There's so many of these people I watched today that within the last week or 10 days were saying, you know, Bitcoin, you know, straight to the moon, and now like they're in a panic. Now, not everybody. There's some quality content out there that I did see that, you know, looked at both sides of the equation, and that's what we're going to try to do today. We're going to try to look at both sides. You know, there's two arguments to be made here. The technicals, if you can say one thing, they can say another thing, and then and we'll get to Mt. Gox. I mean, it's no secret that is the big news of the day. So I'm going to tell you guys specifically exactly where that stands, how much of, you know, what part of the process they're in, and that definitely was the catalyst. You know, Germany continues to sell, but Mt. Gox, I think, is the big thing. George, what jumps out at you today?
Me?
Yeah.
How people, you know, begin to panic because things don't go. This is a game. This is what if you remember, this was already told to you that this was going to happen. And we're just going to see a little rocky road, and I come back when there's a full moon. I think people will become happy again.
All right. Yeah, I mean
honestly,
we did on our members only live stream on Tuesday. We pretty much talked about this scenario playing out, you know, and again, we try to look at the upside and the downside, and there's just some lines on here, you know, on the chart, which we'll look at. We're on the 15-minute right now. We'll go to the 1 day, and there's just some lines. One of the main things that we talked about was this line at 56,500. We hit that line, and we never retested it. Twice we had dips, and we just didn't get to that line. And George and I had a several conversations that, you know, we always say they tend to gravitate back and retest these lines. And then the question is, when it retests it, you know, does it pass or fail? And I think we're in the middle of trying to figure that out. Obviously, you can see we flash crashed significantly lower than that in a pretty short period of time. We went, you know, down almost 9%. So once we went through that, we accelerated to the downside. We consolidated a little bit, and we are up substantially from the bottom. I mean, this right here, which was midnight Eastern time in the United States, we were down at, you know, like 53,000 and change. So, you know, from there,
someplace
we're up 5.5% off the bottom. But, you know, we're still down on the day. And you can see, well, I'll go to that. The IBIT, which is BlackRock's ETF, that was down 6.5% today. So, you know, that follows the equity markets. And so, you know, when we compare, so that kind of mirrors Bitcoin's performance versus, you're going to see, if you look at the big board at the top, and this is kind of by market cap, although these market caps change every day, so there was a little flip-flopping. But the bigger Bitcoin miners are at the top, and you can see there's an awful lot of green up here. Most of the Bitcoin miners on this day that really this morning looked like it was going to be an absolute nightmare, the Bitcoin miners had a really good day. They had another week. We're going to take a look week over week. They dramatically outperformed Bitcoin once again this week. So the trend continues. So there's some good news inside of what maybe a lot of people are thinking the bad news is, inside of what a massive amount of fear there is. If everybody could do us a favor, let me see if I can get this. If you could please smash the like button. We're at 36 likes. It does help the stream out a lot, and we appreciate it. It helps the stream in real time. Send this. Let's get this out to some more people, because I can tell you, and you guys know, a lot of people have some mixed feelings today. You know, if your Bitcoin miner took off, you may be feeling okay, but for the, you know, overall Bitcoin and cryptocurrency universe, this is peak fear. We have not been to this level of fear in a long, long time. And the fear has turned into, you know, today fear turned into panic, in my opinion. There was panic out there. So let's just start out by seeing, I'm going to do a quick poll. Just sorry for the all capitals. That was unintentional. Give me one more second. All right, so the question is, what did you do? What did you do today? Did you buy? Did you sell? Did you hold? So what did everybody do today? Let us know in the poll, and then I'll let you know what I did. And George, you want to let anyone? Did you do anything today, or just hold? What?
A lot of alts.
You bought some altcoins.
Bought a whole bunch. And Crypto Fever will be happy to know that I finally bought his Solano.
Hey, all right.
I mean, it just went down so low that I was like, I gotta buy some of this.
So you're in. You've been a holdout.
I bought a whole bunch. Yeah, I bought a whole bunch of alts. I know I'm early, but you know, it was such good pricing.
It's one of those things. It's like, maybe you're early, and you know, it's a part of the dollar cost average process potentially.
Well, it was all the alts got destroyed back to where they were way back. Man, when was that? In like October of last year? I mean, they got taken out, dude.
Yeah,
I don't know.
So
you think Bitcoin got hurt? Oh my God. Everything got hurt.
And we can take a look at that. The overall market cap of the cryptocurrency universe is way down. It's back down just a little over 2 trillion. We were at like somewhere between 2.8 and 2.9 trillion. And I think it's down to like 2.1.
Order got filled for Bitcoin.
Yeah, so George put in, so just to be on record, over a week ago, George called this push down to that line at 56,500 on, I think, a members only live stream, I believe it was. George put an
No, I
order.
did it also on, I did it on the open stream
Oh,
too.
you did on the open
Yeah.
stream, put an order
Yeah.
in real time so that the world
Well,
could see
yeah.
at that time. And at that time, Bitcoin was, you know, $3,000, $4,000,
Six.
$6,000 away from that order, and now that order is filled. So,
Yeah, I don't think we really have anything to worry about. I mean, except it's like I said, we're in Rocky Road ice cream.
yeah,
I'm not worried. I'm still buying. I mean, what can I do? But dude, you know how much I'm down? Oh my goodness, this hurt.
this is
This,
exactly
it hurt.
right. This does hurt. This hurts.
I mean, I took a picture. Someday I'll show you guys because, like, when you're down people's salary in a year, I mean, that's a lot of money.
These are tough days. And I'll tell you, I feel a lot better now than I did first thing in the morning because the Bitcoin miners rallied significantly. So this was still a big down day for me in general. But I'm way off of my lows from this morning. Having said that, the question is, you know, what is next for Bitcoin? Because we'll get into the Mt. Gox situation, and there's a lot of people expect the next move is down. The vast majority of what I saw out there, the vast majority was people talking about, you know, how low are we going from here? I didn't really, only one person did I see say that, you know, today we bottomed out and we're going to move up. So
Somebody said that? Who was that?
I'm not going to mention any YouTubers in specific, but it was everybody that I looked at was a YouTuber with at least 200,000 subscribers or more. So, you know, these are fairly big channels. A lot of people are watching these people. And there is one person, and to be fair, he's actually been calling this for a while. And he said, we're going to retest 56,000. And he had a huge buy order in, and, you know, it went through. So, you know, it wasn't like he just made that up today. He's been consistent, and he thought that that would be the bottom. And today he still felt like that would be the bottom. But that was the only one. Pretty much everybody else, some very big people that have just been, you know, almost, I'm going to use the word cheerleading because sometimes I feel like, and that's okay. Listen, if you're, you know, if you're bullish on Bitcoin, there's some big names that we know that are just permanent bulls on Bitcoin regardless. And sometimes it's reassuring to listen because really over the long term, you know, those people have been right. Whether or not the next move, you know, in the short term is down here, over the long term, the Bitcoin bulls have been right and, you know, made a lot of money. So, you know, some people are sticking to that. But today there was even a lot of those people were just in fear is what I saw. And Crypto Fever saying extreme fear, extreme FUD. I love it. I mean, this does present for those of you who are willing, and so I'm going to go through, vote if you haven't. What did you do today? Exactly 50% right now on the poll said that they bought today. 44% held and 6% sold today. So I will tell you, I only bought one thing today, and it was not a gigantic purchase. I bought some more BitX, which is getting absolutely wrecked right now. You know, it did recover quite a bit from its, it was down over 20% in the early hours of the morning. So I bought some very early in the morning, and I thought I'd be able to buy some more later in the day because, you know, we're several weeks in a row into Friday afternoon sell-offs. Well, we did not get that Friday afternoon sell-off today. Today was the opposite. We went up all day, and we're kind of fighting this line, as you guys can see. Almost everybody put out their monthly operational report. We'll talk about what everybody did in the month of June. A lot of good information. And I will, the first thing I'm going to say is HUT put out their June monthly operational report. They also put their main numbers out in that operational report. So I was asking for that and asking for that. So now I want to give them credit. They did catch up, and for whatever reason, they did not put out a May operational report. So now they put out their June report, and they included May in it, so we can, from a big picture standpoint, we can see what happened not only last month, but the month that was missing. And I will tell you, they are still holding all of that Bitcoin. So they have not sold any of their stack. We'll get into some more specifics of other Bitcoin miners. But that was my gigantic question. What's going on? They had the second biggest stack out of all the Bitcoin miners, and one of the biggest stacks out of all publicly traded companies, and we didn't know what they were doing with it. So now they have let us know, and they're still holding. So I actually was encouraged to see that. I don't think this is the time for Bitcoin miners to be dumping their Bitcoin. We're below the bottom end of our trading range here today. And now we're kind of creeping back up.
Yeah, they stole all those tools.
We're fighting to stay at the bottom end. I'm going to go to the 1 day, and we can take a closer look at that. So this really spells it out. If you see today's candle, there is a gigantic candle wick. So for those, somebody said flash crash, and this kind of is what a flash crash is. A giant candle wick to the downside, but you'll see we're fighting. We're a couple hours away from closing this daily candle, and we're fighting this point. This is the very bottom of our trading range, 56,500. So, if this daily candle closes above that, you could argue from a technical standpoint that would be a good sign. Obviously, today is not a good day, and this is 1, 2, 3, 4 red days in a row. Yesterday was a big red day. But if we can fight and stay above this line, that would be some amount of encouraging news. But there is a lot of Bitcoin potentially that's coming back onto the market. The other thing I will say is a lot of the Bitcoin miners hodled most, if not all, of their Bitcoin last month. So I think a lot of Bitcoin miners don't like this price, and they're holding their Bitcoin, and they're not going to sell it.
It's kind of funny that somebody, I think it was Seeker, wrote that Marathon bought 679 Bitcoin today and then let their stock get plummeted.
I think they added 679 Bitcoin to their hodl, which was more than they mined in the month. So that's not the first time that's happened. So that means that they actually hodled and bought.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And then Robin's saying Riot passed them up for stack hodling. So we're going to see that Riot, and I think I have theirs open, passed.
What do you call that dessert I had?
Let's see here.
Jello pretzel salad, by the way. Sorry.
Jello pretzel salad. That sounds
Yeah.
delicious.
It was really good.
Okay, so this is Riot's monthly operational report. And let's just take a look. So Riot now has 9,334 Bitcoin, if you guys can see this right here. So this is the first time, and it's been heading, this is an, has been, well, we'll go through the 22.
22?
But with a giant asterisk. So I do think this was a good report. I am encouraged. This is kind of what I expected to see. It's not all that I hoped for, but a lot of steps in the right direction for Riot. We had a long conversation on the members only live stream about what direction Riot's going in. Riot is now the worst performing Bitcoin mining stock on the year in the year 2024. They're fairly dramatically underperforming most of their peers year to date. And a lot of it has to do with a lot of, I won't even say mediocre, I think disappointing monthly operational updates. I think this was a big step in the right direction. It's not like they took off with this because they still left some question marks. So if you guys, should we spend a minute and just talk Riot and go through this? So Riot, first off, they now have 9,334 Bitcoin. So HUT has 9,108 maybe. We'll double check that number, but plus or minus. So Riot's been catching them for the last, couple of years. rate about to pass them. So they now have finally passed them. So now Marathon has by far the biggest hodl stack. Riot now has the second largest hodl stack, and Hut 8 has the third largest, and CleanSpark has the fourth. And those four really are so much bigger than the next closest. There are some others that are starting to hodl, though. So 255 Bitcoin mined in the month. That is up from 215 Bitcoin mined in May. So that was a nice jump month over month. Riot exceeded, so if I go through this, and we'll just spend a minute on this as long as we're here. Riot exceeds their Q2 2024 target, and they reached 22 exahash. So I think they were targeting 21.4 exahash or 21, something like that. So now they're saying they exceeded that. But if you look, let's go down here. Average operational hash rate for the month. So average operating hash rate. So on the month, they averaged 11.4 exahash that was operational. So yes, as of June 30th, they were at 22 exahash. Some of that is because they go through in this report and say a lot of this stuff came online in the last few days of the month. In addition to that, they do curtail. You'll see they got $5.7 million in the power credit, and then they got another $500,000 in the demand response credits. So $6.2 million they got paid for not mining. That's on top of the 255 Bitcoin that they mined. So I think I would expect to see another big jump. Month over month, this was a big jump. We'll look at what everybody did. I did a summary of that and what percentage-wise they did month over month. This was a big jump month over month. And I expect in July for them to have another big jump month over month. So this is the bare minimum stuff they need to do for the market to start to believe the story that they've been telling, that they're going to get to, 30 exahash by the end of this year, 40 exahash by the end of next year. And that doesn't count whatever other merger and acquisition stuff goes on beyond that.
Trying to find Riot. So you think $9.56 is a good buy?
This all depends. What I will say is Riot is the worst performing stock out of the Bitcoin mining stocks this year. Out of the 12 that we are now following, we dropped 7 of them that are just so small that, they started to be of a different nature. There were 7 stocks that we took off of our chart. We've been following 19 Bitcoin miners for the last couple of years. There are 7 that, were in the, between $25 million and $60 million market cap area versus the rest of them that are, 10 of the 12 we follow are over $1 billion market cap. So you can see, they're just of a very different nature. So of the 12 large Bitcoin mining companies, Riot is in last place year to date from a stock performance. So I do think that their time is going to come. I think this was just, this was what they needed to do. This is not a grand slam home run, but this was, in my opinion, a positive report. So let's see what
they say. How much? Well, they don't have to say it yet. How much money they have left to raise?
Yeah, no, they don't disclose that in this.
Yeah, well, it would probably be the end of this month or the beginning of next.
So
with their quarterly report.
Right. I'm going to end this existing poll. So 46% bought, 51% held, and 3% sold. So congratulations. Most people, it sounds like most of us here did not necessarily panic. And the broader market definitely was panicking today. I mean, there's no doubt. So that's nice to see. We'll end this poll. I got a couple of thoughts. You got any polls on deck, George, that you're thinking about?
No polls. I can't even think. I'm still on vacation mode.
I know.
It was so hard to buy last night. Like I was buying at like 8:30 or 9 o'clock at night. It's just like I had a whole list of stuff that I was buying. I bought like just crazy. Bought a whole bunch of AI stuff. I bought a whole bunch of just different things I've never even spoken about here.
Altcoins.
Yeah, altcoins. Yeah, just to really, and I'm talking like, $100 here, $200 there, $500. You know what I mean? Just very small amounts, but I just want to be in it. So I really spread my risk around. And you want to hear this one? And I didn't tell anybody. I probably should have told somebody.
Uh-oh.
I'm gonna tell you
So
something.
you're going to tell everybody now.
Now I'm gonna tell everybody. Everybody knows I'm an XRP nut, right? Everybody. So I have
You
like,
are on record.
right, I have multiple stacks of XRP, right? Well, I sold one of the stacks I sold, and I factored in how much money I would make is if it went way down to 42, and then I had an order in, and it executed last night at 42 cents. So I sold around like 49 cents and then got back in at like 42.2 or something like that, 42.4.
So that was another buy order you put in, and it kicked in.
Those are the best. If I'm telling you, you put a buy order out and you just get lucky, I mean, I put mine out for Bitcoin when it was 62.5, maybe 63, and it didn't ever look like it was going down there,
And
so,
and the best thing about that is it's a lot easier to have perspective. When you're sitting at Bitcoin 60 or 62,000, it makes a lot more sense that at 56 or 57,000 that it's a buy.
right.
When you're staring these down days in the face, even though this is, if you look at it from a big picture, this is at like a 4-month low, sounds like a buying opportunity, but that fear sets in. So if you've got, like, to your point, George, if you have these orders in the system, and you've made a plan and you let them kick in as they go, obviously unless something dramatically changed, then that can be a highly effective. It takes the emotion out of it. You're making that non-emotional decision much earlier on, saying, if this happens, then I'm going to add. And conversely, a lot of people have stop losses, which is basically the opposite, to say, listen,
Same thing, yeah.
Whether it's because, your trade is in profit and, you're willing to accept a certain amount and you're going to stop out at a certain price. So it's the same exact principle. If it's a part of your plan, for me, these days are really hard because I'm still in buy and hold mode. And I still, despite the fact that I did hear several people today talk about the bull run is over and, that was it. I don't think that's the case. Obviously, anything is possible. That would be a gigantic deviation from anything that's ever happened in the previous cycles. But, this cycle has been different in some ways. But I do think that, part of that, obviously the ETFs were the big factor. And it's making this cycle look a little bit different. So, to a certain extent, the more you zoom out, I think the more this makes sense. If you zoom, a lot of people are looking at this double top. So I'm gonna go to the 1 day and just show you.
I'm gonna answer a couple of questions. Yes, I use Coinbase. I also use Uphold, and I also use Kraken. And yes, I believe Coinbase plays a ton of games.
So if you go to the 1 week, you'll see a lot of people are saying, hey, this is a double top. And, just like this is the last bull market, so a lot of people are saying, well, this was a double top and that was the end of the bull market. So, we're mirroring this pattern. It's game over. So personally, I think there's, if you look at all of the rest of the analytics, all the rest of the technical analysis, I don't think this argument makes sense, but obviously, only time will tell.
So for what period of time are they talking? I mean, you know what I mean? Are you talking for the next 6 months, 4 months, 2 months? How do you determine that? Like when they say we're in a bull market versus a bear market.
So what people are arguing is this double top represents this was the peak of the 4-year cycle. So I
Yeah,
heard
head and shoulders.
several people arguing that this double top was the peak of the 4-year cycle. So, we are now, the best part is over. And so we'll ask
Do they
everybody
get
what they think.
do they get paid by like the ETFs?
You you feel like that's FUD?
I think that could be the biggest FUD out of anything.
I can't tell you how many times I heard that watching videos in the last 48 hours.
Oh, do you get paid for by the ETFs?
Huh? Who?
What? Where?
Huh? What?
No, I mean, because it doesn't make sense that you're saying that we have a few bad days and now we're in a bear market.
Well, their argument is, and first of all, I'll be on record. I totally disagree with this argument. I think it's wrong, but I'll go back to the 1 week. They're saying we are now 4 months sideways, and we had a double top, which can be a signal, that you've topped out. So that is a pattern that people look for. This double top, the first thing I'll point out is this double top is the opposite of the last one. In that the second time, we didn't even get back to the first one. The last time was the reverse. We got to 65,000 and then went to a higher 69,000. So, that's one minor difference. The major difference is, we're only a few months after the halving. So the peak of Bitcoin in the 4-year cycle in the past has been over a year after the halving. So, well over a year. So we're way, way early in the process, in my opinion. But, there's a million different ways to chart things. And so I heard every argument under the sun. I'm more simple than that. We're very early in the process. Yes, this is 4 months of going sideways, but even from top to bottom. So if you go from our absolute peak back in March to our candle wick to the bottom today, that's about 27.5%. Every bull run we've ever had is filled up with 30% pullbacks. This last 19 or 20 months, we had 5 pullbacks, and they were all between 20 and 23%. So this one's now 27.5%. So this is the biggest pullback so far in this bull run, but it's still actually smaller than almost every pullback we've ever gotten in previous bull markets. So I agree, George. I mean, to panic on a 27.5% pullback, to say it's game over, I feel like that is premature. I think people are very spooked that a lot of Bitcoin are going to get sold as a part of this Mt. Gox. So a different argument would be, what's going to happen in the short term, in the next, weeks or month or 2 or 3.
So when the bull market was over for Bitcoin, does that mean the bull market was over for all the coins or just Bitcoin? So was it inverse?
Well, altcoin season usually comes after the Bitcoin run up, but yeah, usually the top is the top. So pretty much in November of 2021 was the top for everything, and then that was it. So, just because that's what's happened in the past, obviously there is no guarantee that that's what will happen going forward, but yeah, in the past, usually that final blow off top, and last time people were disappointed. People were expecting, if you guys remember, everybody was expecting to go a lot higher than $69,000 back in 2021. So even though a lot of the charts were saying, this looks like maybe the top, we had a lot of very big, well-trusted voices predicting numbers much, much, much higher, between 100 and 150,000. A lot of very, very popular people were talking about that. And so I think, and I got caught up in it too. I did not think 69 was going to be the top of the previous cycle. But if 74,000 is the top of this cycle and it comes, actually before the halving, then obviously the whole cycle, at that point, if that's true, then the cycle is over. There is no more 4-year cycle. So I don't think that makes any sense to me at all.
Well, I mean, if that's the case, Bitcoin's actually in a lot worse trouble than you can imagine.
Agreed, because that's right. So if that's the case, then
yeah.
Now I don't think
so. Where do they expect Bitcoin to go?
I
These
saw
guys
predictions that ran the gambit. The worst one I saw was somebody thought we were going to go revisit 15,500.
Whoa.
So that was the worst thing I saw. And if you happen to be just tuning in the last 10 seconds or 30 seconds, I'm not saying that at all. I watched a lot of people to try to hear what's going on out there. There is a lot of fear. There is a lot of panic. And a lot of people had some very low predictions as to where Bitcoin's going next. Now, Bitcoin might go lower, right? I think, George, correct me if I'm wrong. I think you think Bitcoin's going lower from here.
Oh yeah, I do. I do.
So what's your thought? Let me ask everybody, and then you can tell them. So is Riot stock a buy? That was the last poll. I'll close that out. 60% say yes, 40% say no. The reason I asked Riot in specific is it's down 40% year to date. It's the worst performing stock of all the large Bitcoin miners, and still only 60% of the people think it's a buy here at these numbers. So not a lot of bullish sentiment out there on Riot.
Yeah. I've lost so much money. Almost all my losses have come from Riot. You know that?
That's my biggest loser by a mile.
Yeah.
I'm still in the red in a big way in that one. And
if I bought in now and I went back to my original position, I think I would probably be, my dollar cost average would probably be in the 20s, 21, 22 maybe. Just, they have hurt me. But usually when you see an outlier like that, that's the one you go after because that's the one everybody finally goes after. And it does look like a nice setup.
I still have confidence in the stock. I don't think there's some reasons that, Riot doesn't, they're not as efficient by one measure, which is the number of Bitcoin they mine per exahash. They've always been at or near the bottom of the list versus their peers. So one of the reasons is they self-curtail and get paid energy credits. Another reason I think just straight up is they just have not hit their stride and gotten as efficient as they could be. Also, and they're not the only ones in Texas, so you can't say, well, Texas makes them curtail. A lot of the large Bitcoin miners have a lot of their business in the state of Texas. So I just think they're still, they talked about one of their machines was no good. They got rid of that machine. They put new ones in its place. They've added a lot of machines. So the next 2 or 3 operation reports are going to be very telling. And I said that a month ago. This is the first of the 3 I was looking at, and I am satisfied with this one. I'm not going to say I'm thrilled and it was a home run, but I'm totally, that met my expectation. In some ways, it actually exceeded my expectation. They did say they have 22 exahash installed, ready to go. So, they could potentially have days where they're running at that level in the month of July. So July is going to be a very interesting operational report. I would expect another. Go ahead.
What's the 200 moving day average on Bitcoin right now?
I got a chart on that. That's a good question. We'll go to that next.
Because I have a feeling that's going to hold the keys to the future of Bitcoin.
Let me put this poll up first. Is this the end of the Bitcoin bull market? And I'm saying in this 4-year cycle. So I'm not saying, are we bearish for the next couple of months? Is this it? Was that the top? Is this thing over?
What are we, 3 months after the halving?
I'm just asking the question.
What do you think we are? We're less than 90 days.
So if I switch to this, where did it go? Okay, so to answer your question, George, and I don't know where this chart went. I had it up. Yesterday, we had a giant red candle and went below the 200-day moving average.
Oof.
So if I zoom out, right, that is very bearish. So, that's what a lot of people are looking at. And that is more of an argument that the next 1 or 2 or 3 months could potentially be a continuation of, let's face it, you know, we've had a pullback. So the question is it over, or is there more pain ahead? We're at 27.5% as of the bottom of this candle wick. So if I go to the whole bull market that we've had, since really the FTX situation was here, this day that's circled, right? We plummeted down to this, you know, we got on this, yeah, about 15,500 was the absolute bottom. And then you'll see in January of 2023, so a year and a half ago, we broke out above the 200-day moving average. The only time in the last year and a half that we were not above that, we did have one little bearish time right here that I circled, and I made an info line here because once we broke below, and I'll zoom into this, as soon as we broke below the 200-day moving average, I did this line. This was 60 days. So once we broke below that, we stayed there for 2 months. So, you know, is that what's in store for us? We've now broken below this. So is this what's next?
Yes.
So you're thinking yes on that one, George.
Yes.
And there's some
I thought it would only be 30 days, but it could be 60.
I mean, it could. This is what happened, and again, this can happen. That doesn't mean the bull run is over, because remember, this happened. This happened well into the bull market, and we were still only at $25,000. Now, when I say only, from the bottom, you know, even at the bottom of this, that's a 58% move to the upside for Bitcoin, and to the top up here, it was up over 100%. So yeah, there was a big pullback in the middle of this bull run. So we get these. But to go below the 200-day, to your question, George, to go below the 200-day average, this is only the second time since November of 2022 that has happened. And that happened yesterday, and today, you know, all we did was move even a little further bit away from it. So, you know, if we pop below and jump back above it, that would be one thing. But, you know, the sentiment out there does not feel like that. The numbers, everybody are, you know, there's a couple of big numbers, and we'll go back to our regular chart, and they're kind of numbers we have as well on our chart.
Should I tell people the number that I saw? You guys are going to think I'm crazy.
Well, if you can, yeah, let people know where you think we're going.
I think we're going below 40. Sorry.
But
I didn't want to say it.
But just below, in your opinion, right? I mean,
Yeah,
when you say
just
below
almost,
40.
almost right 40, and yeah. It's all fun.
So some of the big lines, right? We have this line at 56,500. Obviously, we're fighting for this line right now. I have a line at around 52,000. There's, you know, plus or minus, a lot of people are looking at this 51 to 52,000 level, and then this $48,000 level. This seemed, a lot of people thought we were going down here. Now, we were practically there today. So, you know, if we hit 52,000, would that be a surprise to anybody? We were at, you know, we got to 53,500 today. So I don't think it would be too shocking if we get down to 52,000.
What was the support level at that area?
You're saying, is there a line of support that bounced here? I did not have a line here. So there was obviously some support. We got, according to the Coinbase chart, we got to $53,499.90. So at about 53,500, there must have been a lot of buy orders in, and there was some support at that level. So, you know, now that is going to be a line because we've got a candle wick. So now we have a new low. So we have a lower low because we candle wick down to 56.5. Now we've candle wick down to 53.5. So by all indications, I mean, this short-term bearish trend is continuing. So until we see a reversal, until we see some definitive reversal, and we got the opposite of that. We actually got, you know, this signal moving below the 200-day moving average. That's actually another bearish signal. So there's a lot of reasons why people think, you know, we're going to go down and test 52. We're going to go down and test 48. I saw a lot of people talking between 40 and 44,000. So let's see. I mean, I don't really have, Yeah, I guess I got a line down at 41,000. And there are, there's areas of support in the middle. I think a lot of people are looking at, this was a little bit of consolidation somewhere in the 42,000 level. So now we're a long way from there. So, each one of these lines is its own thing. And, so we're going to, in my opinion, we'll test each one of these. Sometimes we blow right through these lines of support on the way up or down. This one was not a big surprise because really, if you look in a few days, we went like this in 3 days. So from 52,000 to, 62,000, that was 3 days. So there really is a gap here, and we're not quite done filling it, which is this piece of the puzzle. The one, argument that I would make is, with this spot right here, which is somewhere around this 52,000, I think there is a monumental expectation. And I saw this throughout what I was looking at. There's a massive expectation that we're going to gravitate back to this line here. So it's, it's possible we may not quite get back to that.
What line is that?
That's somewhere around this $52,000. So, that would be a great fake out, is to get to 53.5, have a lot of people with buy orders in at 52 or 51 and, never get there and have, so I'm not saying that's going to happen. It's just, this was a big thing that everybody was looking at.
Well, let's talk about Mount Gox. Have we talked about that yet? No, we haven't.
We have not talked about Mount Gox. So let's talk about
what
Mount
has
Gox.
made everybody nervous.
Yeah, that is the news. If I can, before I do that, if I could just please ask everybody to smash the like button. We're at 66 likes. If we could get to 100 likes, we would appreciate it. It does help the channel out. It helps the stream out. This is a weird day because, in the U.S., yesterday was a holiday, no trading. Obviously, cryptocurrency doesn't have holidays, but the Bitcoin miners didn't trade yesterday, and now we have 1 day here in the middle. So, all right, let's talk Mount Gox.
Gox is complete FUD. FUD.
You're saying Mount Gox is FUD?
Not me, Brent.
Well, there's two components to this. The massive push down that we had today, I don't think that had a lot to do with, the supply and demand equation of this stuff coming back onto the market. I do think it had to do with the fear that there was about to be a lot of Bitcoin coming back onto the market. But the flip side of this is, Mount Gox is real. This is not a made up story. There's 140,000 Bitcoin. Now, that doesn't mean 140,000 Bitcoin are going to be sold and, there's going to be a mass exodus. People are going to get their Bitcoin back. And, some of those people are going to hold their Bitcoin. Not all of that 140,000 is going to get sold. I've seen estimates even as low as 25,000 out of the 140,000 are going to end up back on the market. I've seen most people talk more about 50,000 of the 140 are going to end up back, sold back onto the market. But we don't know. And only time is going to tell. Some amount of this is coming back. But in the big picture, even if that pushes the price down, in my mind, this could be some short-term pressure to the downside. And I think that's what a lot of people are looking at and why they're talking about 52,000 and 48,000 or maybe even 44,000. Because they feel like this is going to create short-term downward pressure. And I'm going to show you some articles from just a few days ago when everybody already knew this was happening, where people were saying July is going to be a huge month, even though they knew Mt. Gox had already announced they were going to start distributing this in July. But things got a little more definitive today. I'm going to go down to the actual notice regarding payment in Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. On July 5th, 2024, the Rehabilitation Trustee made repayments in Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash to some of the rehabilitation creditors through a part of the designated cryptocurrency exchange, etc., in accordance with the rehabilitation plan. So they have started to give back the Bitcoin today. Today is July 5th. This notice came out today. So they moved, I think, 47,000 Bitcoin onto exchange either yesterday or the day before. It was almost exactly 1/3 of the Bitcoin that they hold. They moved on to exchange, and now they put out an announcement that they are repaying this. So, this is a two-part scenario. We got the, panic when 47,000 Bitcoin got moved back onto exchange. But, some of that is panic because remember, none of those were sold at that point. They were obviously preparing to do something, and they may be giving all of those back, maybe even in July. They did say they would stagger this. I think the target date to be done with all this is October 31st. So Crypto Fever saying 64,000 Bitcoin will be returned out of those 140,000, and 5 to 15% will be sold. 5,000 to 10,000 Bitcoin may be dumped immediately on the market. So in Crypto Fever's opinion, we're going to only get 5 or 10,000 Bitcoin that are going to come back onto the market. And Robin is saying, and Crypto Fever is a member, thanks for being a member, and Robin is also a member, thank you. Robin said, I don't think the miners will be impacted by Mt. Gox. The miners are no longer one-trick pony. So that does go to another article we'll talk about regarding AI and the Bitcoin miners. So that's playing into a lot of these green days, I think. And we are inside of a larger trend where, the first 3.5 months of the year, Bitcoin was up. The Bitcoin miners were down. The last 2.5 months, Bitcoin's been down and the Bitcoin miners have been up. Some of them huge. So they're playing catch up. That continued this week. Let me see if we can go to that while we're talking about it, and then we'll get back on to... And why did these disappear?
I was trying to explain the chance. He's got...
Huh. I don't know what just happened to my chart. Everything disappeared. It was there 1 second ago. All right, we'll come back to that. But I will tell you, I don't know why this disappeared. I'll fix this. But while Bitcoin was down 6% this week, every single Bitcoin miner of the 12 that we follow, they were all green. And Iris Energy and TeraWolf were up in the neighborhood of 30% this week when Bitcoin was down 6%. So I will get this chart back. Let me try and fix it. I have no idea why this disappeared. All right, which jumps us to, accidentally jumping us to the Fear and Greed Index. And this will update in a couple of hours. 29 is a new low, a new recent low on the Fear and Greed Index. We hit 30 twice. We hit 29 on yesterday's update. So if you take a look, we hit 30 back on June 25th. I'm going to go to the 1 year so you can see just how much, we were in a period of greed for quite a bit. We were between 70 and, 78. We had a pullback, and then I'll zoom in. We hit 30 on June 25th. We hit 30 again on June 29th. We jumped back up to neutral, and now this is the lowest number on the Fear and Greed Index in the last year. So we hit 30 once again back here on this day, September 12th of last year. So 29 is a 12-month low on the Fear and Greed Index. So we are in big time fear. It's not extreme fear yet, but, this is a big reset. So how long we stay there, I don't know, but these are some of the things you want to try to look for in a bottoming out process. We're 4 months into going sideways. We're really 3 or 4 weeks into this downward push in particular. And, today we saw us move really potentially outside of this range we've been trading in. This was the bottom of the range. We have a giant candlewick below that. It remains to be seen where we close. But this is some serious downward pressure. So we've got the Fear and Greed Index at a 12-month low. If you look at the 1-day RSI, this is kind of double bottoming. And this pulled, this only counts at the close of the day. So this has recovered significantly. We were basically back down to this level early this morning, but it looks like we're going to get a close that's going to be a higher low here. And so that's potentially encouraging, but we're oversold again. That's twice in a couple of weeks inside of this downward push. And so all of these things, we've got an oversold RSI on the one-day time frame. We're at a 52-week low on the fear and greed index. So some of these things, some of these things are encouraging. They sound bad, but they're encouraging. This is usually what a bottoming out process looks like. The question is, there's some other things that don't look so good. On the flip side, we just took out the 200-day moving average yesterday, and, we're even lower today. So we're getting a lot of mixed signals, and we're going to see. So, there are a lot of people who share Crypto Fever's opinion that the Mt. Gox thing ultimately is not going to dump a lot of Bitcoin out onto the market, and it's not going to have a huge impact on the supply and demand. And remember, we have the Bitcoin Spot ETFs. So at some point, if it gets low enough, there's an awful lot of potential demand out there. The question is, at what price is the appetite for this? So when is this going to get bought up? Where are we going to find support? So how many are going to come back onto the market? Where are we going to find support? In the meantime, Germany has 50,000 Bitcoin that they've been selling, a little bit every day recently. And, so that's more Bitcoin that's getting added to this daily, supply demand equation.
So well, here's something to think about, Tom. If supposedly Germany sold 5,000 Bitcoin the other day, and that's what caused the 6% drop in Bitcoin, correct?
Well, they've sold, the last I saw, every single day they've been selling some, and the last I saw, which was a couple of days ago, they had sold a total of 5,000, which leaves them with 45,000 more to. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to sell all of that. We don't know what they're going to do.
So, if Mt. Gox, they just moved 47,000?
Yes.
And they only have 140, or is they're not going to have 140 go back? Do you know?
They have 140,000, and all of this, I'm not, I'll have to read this because Crypto Fever seemed to allude to the fact that some of them weren't being returned, but 100% of these assets are leaving Mt. Gox, and they have 140,000 Bitcoin. By October 31st, their plan is to have 0 Bitcoin.
Well, it's pretty impressive if they've already moved 1/3 of them.
But all they did was put those on exchange. That doesn't mean that they've returned them to their owners.
Oh, okay.
So they moved those onto exchange, and that got everybody rattled. That was really the big move to the downside. Was even before they really started returning them to their owners. Everybody, it was noted that they moved 47,000 onto exchange, and that did cause an immediate panic. And that was this big candle wick to the downside. So I think as people digested that, and as some demand came in, and a lot of this got bought up. And, now we're fighting this line right here. I'll go back to the 15-minute, which will give us a better indication. You can see, we jumped up 5% right to this line. And we've been on either side of this for hours and hours now. So, and I don't necessarily think it's, vital whether or not we close $50 below this or $50 above this. I think what we're seeing today, unless there's a big break one way or the other, we're fighting at this line. So is this line going to turn into resistance? We'll find that out really over the weekend, and then on Monday as we get back to business as usual and with the ETFs trading, I think we're going to see if this line stays as the support that it was or if it turns into resistance and we have a new lower trading range. At that point, the 52 or the 48 could start to come into play, or potentially points lower than that. And Crypto Fever saying, consensus is usually wrong and consensus is bearish. So that's true. I mean, being a contrarian oftentimes pays off in the market. And Crypto Fever also said, no, they are not, Tom. So I think he's saying they're not going to get rid of all of their Bitcoin. So that's my understanding, is that this was going to be done by October 31st. And by understanding, I read that in multiple articles. So if there's something more specific you can give us and that tells us that something different than that is happening, that would be helpful. Crypto Fever saying there are fees you give up as a creditor if you want to be in this wave of receivership this year from Mt. Gox. If you want to wait in perpetuity, you can receive the full amount owed to you. So, okay, so and that may be the breakout, because I do think that's true. There's some portion of these that will go on. So whatever phase one of this is going to be over by October 5th. So thank you, Crypto Fever, because I do think this is true. Phase one of this is going to start in July and end in October 31st. And then there is some portion of that past that. And it sounds like Crypto Fever saying it's, half of it will be given out, over a longer period of time. So that may help shrink the amount that comes back on. In addition to that, a lot of the people that get their coins back aren't necessarily going to go sell them right now. And the lower Bitcoin gets, I think the less people are going to sell them, because a lot of these people have to be looking at an equation where they're going, we were at 74,000 3 months ago. Do I want to sell at 55,000 or 50,000 or 48,000? Some people might say yes, some people may not. So it's good.
I wonder if you could still buy people's Mt. Gox coins, because I'm sure people just want to get out.
Yeah, there's still going to be some of that going on for sure.
Think about, you could be the person at the end of the list. What if they go through A through Z and your last name is Zanowski?
Are they going in alphabetical order? I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know, but wouldn't that suck if they were?
So Crypto Fever saying a third are held by institutional owners. So those would be significantly less likely to sell. But there is no doubt. So we don't know how all this is going to play out. It has begun. We did, I'll go back to the notice. They did tell us they are now distributing these coins. So that doesn't mean that they're selling them. Remember, they're distributing them back to their owners. And that did begin on today, July 5th. We'll see how this plays out. And we'll see how much downward pressure this puts on, Bitcoin, and how much of it gets sucked up by, institutions, by the ETFs, by retail. Retail, you can see, is in a panic. Again, I'm going to go back to the fear and greed index. Retail has been out. Retail interest is basically also at a 52-week, at or near a 52-week low. So, that will bottom out as well. And as sure as everybody's in a pure state of panic right now, at some point, we're going to be on the other side of this equation. And I can only point back to just last week, there was massive optimism. We went from 30 on the fear and greed index. We ran up to 53, which is still just a little above neutral, but a big jump. And everybody was setting up for July to be a great month. And, now it's only July 5th, and we're already have the exact opposite opinion. So, the retail investors and the market can be very fickle. And there is massive negativity out there right now, but that doesn't mean that that's going to last. I'm curious for Crypto Fever, and you might have already said this. What's your, if you don't mind dropping in the chat, what's your price target to the downside? Do you think we're going lower, and where do you think we're going? All things considered. If you feel like it, you can drop that in the chat. And Robin's saying, here comes the summer
for 2
rally.
weeks. Did you hear me? I think it's only going to be crazy for 2 weeks, but I think they could suppress it for 60 days. I think it's only going to be crazy bad for 2 weeks. That's my humble opinion.
So George,
wipe your butt with it.
For those who missed it, George thinks we're going to get a little under 40,000. So we're going to retest 40,000 in George's opinion, but it will happen quickly and it won't stay there for long, I think is what you're saying.
Right. And the caveat is that whole thing is the retail buyers. If the retail guys step up, then it's not going to get there. It's going to get to maybe the 49.6 or 49.8 or something like that.
So Crypto Fever did share and said, I don't see us breaking the 50 to 52K level. So that is, if I go back to the 1 day, we got this purple line is just about 52,000. And I do think that's a very good line of support. We see all of that support here. There's other touch points on this. So, and, my next line's at 48, but, the bottom of this little range here is around 50. So, that is entirely possible. I see somebody else saying 47 to 48K. So we'll close out this poll. Is this the end of the Bitcoin bull market for this 4-year cycle? So actually 18% think that yes, this 73,800 and change was the peak, and that is the end of the bull market. So that's now 19%. So close to your 80-20 rule, George. I'm actually surprised by that. I thought there would be only a very small percentage of the people that think that. But we're looking pretty close to 80-20.
Yeah.
Once again, the 80-20 rule comes into effect. And Crypto Fever added, we may have already bottomed. And this is potentially going to be an encouraging daily candle. And you don't want to make too much out of any one day, but to get this giant candle wick to the downside. It was on good volume. It was not on huge volume. It was pretty typical volume. But to get a big candle wick down and recover, and especially if we happen to finish above this line of support, it is entirely possible that that was the bottom. But, I think it's just one of these things where there's a lot of FUD out there right now. So, until we break out of this downward cycle. For me, I'm now, even though I remain bullish, I think we're going to get to much higher numbers. And I see Sour Melon Gaming say 100K. Thanks also, Sour Melon Gaming's a member as well. So I do think we're going to get to, and then Sour Melon Gaming said 250K bull peak. So there's a call out for 250K before this bull market's over. I've been saying I think we're going to get to at least 150,000 in this bull market. That's my opinion. Obviously, as always, not financial advice for me or any of the people here. We're just discussing, but that is my personal opinion. So do I think the bull market is over? No. I mean, I think we're going to, go up, more than double from here, maybe triple from here.
We have 45 more months in this halving, roughly. Right?
Yeah, we just had the halving.
I can't believe people are calling the top already.
So if we go,
they got to be being paid by the ETFs.
I don't think 18 to 20% of the people. I mean, maybe some of the people out there.
No, on YouTube. These people on YouTube saying that. It doesn't even make. I mean, I'm an idiot, and I'm not even that stupid.
So that's George's theory. I don't think it makes any sense. I mean, nothing's impossible. Obviously, we've learned that lesson. The longer you live, the more you realize nothing's impossible. So you can't, rule anything out. But it just seems remote. That is a remote case scenario, in my opinion, that this was the peak of the bull market, because that would kind of really be saying that the run on Bitcoin is over. If that's what this 4-year cycle did, then really it was just even basically within a rounding error of the last 4-year cycle. And that, that would change the entire narrative surrounding Bitcoin. And there's just too many positive catalysts ahead. I know here in the short term, we've got some negative catalysts. Everybody's in a frenzy about Mt. Gox. Everybody's very worried about what Germany's doing and maybe selling that 50,000 Bitcoin they have. Some people are worried the United States is selling some of their Bitcoin. So, but that's all, that to me, that's all short-term stuff. And I don't know if short-term means today was the bottom or, we have another 30, 60, 90 days of this, but I was going to look, let's go back. Let me see if I can find. Let's go back in time here. Well, we don't have to do the math. In the previous cycle, we hit our peak on November 10th of 2021. The halving was in May of 2020, right? So what's that, 15, 16, 17 months later? So we're only 3 months later right now. And this has been the typical time frame, you know, sometime in that plus or minus 15 months after the halving would be the peak of the cycle. So, you know, this time we peaked before the halving. So if you think that was the top, then, you know, the 4-year that means you think the 4-year cycle is over. You know, and a part of this 4-year cycle, and some of these things have lined up. There's more than just the Bitcoin cycle. There's the U.S. monetary policy has a lot to do with this. The monetary policy has been very tight. We're not putting, you know, any, and we're starting to see some cracks. We're starting to see that ease, you know, so the government pushing money out into the market, interest rates coming down, right? A part of this is this run back up to a new all-time high has happened at, you know, fairly historic, and, you know, from a 20-plus year perspective, these are historically very high interest rates. So even with those, we went to a new all-time high at some point, and some data came out today that we should talk about because it did affect people's expectation of these rate cuts. So I think rate cuts are coming. The market just increased their opinion of when and if rate cuts are coming. So let's go to that, and then we'll take a look at what the futures are showing. This came out today. U.S. labor markets losing steam as unemployment rate climbs to 4.1. So that's a multi-year high for unemployment in the U.S. Again, take these numbers with a grain of salt for whatever they're worth. But, you know, these are the numbers that the Fed is going to use to make their decisions. So this is some of the stuff they're looking for as some cues that it's time for a rate cut. Non-farm payroll increased by 206,000 jobs in June. It's worth noting, you know, and this is a reason to not pay too close attention to these numbers. The May job gains were revised sharply down. So last month they told us we added 272 jobs. We get revisions on these, so you'll see it's now 1 month later and they're saying, nope, it wasn't 272,000. It was 218,000. That is a big difference because the market reacted to this. This was a big outlying number and the market reacted negatively to that. And now it turns out they're saying, nope, that wasn't even the number. This is the number. So you got to be careful. You know, what are they going to do to this next month? We don't know. But we do see unemployment. It hit 4, and that was a multi-year high last month, and now it jumped up to 4.1. So these are some of the things that are leading. So if I go to the CME FedWatch tool that this is tracking the futures as to how much they're pricing in a potential rate cut. So if I look, the July meeting's not worth looking at. I'll look at it anyway. Having said that, you can see we're still at 92+% of the futures pricing in no rate cut in the meeting this month, which is on July 31st. So I would, unless some major data point comes out, we're not getting a rate cut in July. In all likelihood, you never know, but unlikely. However, we are now at, you got to take this number plus this number. We're basically at 77% chance of at least a 25 basis point or a 50 basis point rate cut, you know, between the two meetings. So we're now, and that jumped up. You'll see a week ago that was 58%, actually 63%, this plus this. So this continues to rise, and I think today's number, you know, yesterday we were at 68, today we're at 71. So every new piece of data that comes out is more and more pointing towards September being the first rate cut. That is no guarantee. This can be very wrong, right? We were priced in back in December, we were priced in some very high 80 to 90% chance of a rate cut in March. So we are now, you know, in July without one. So you can see, you know, this is only this is everybody's best guess. We got to wait for the data to come in, and then ultimately it's the Fed's decision. Crypto Fever saying 10 out of 15 were revisions down in the last year and a half. So, right. So you get these numbers, and I think he's going back to the job numbers. You get these numbers, and then you always got to be weary and kind of wait for the next month to when they revise them. And it seems like it's a pretty steady trend of mostly downward corrections. So I'm going to go, let me try to take one more look at what the heck. While we're looking at that, I just want to fix this one chart that disappeared on me. Strange.
And if you follow the stuff, Biden just announced that he's going to stay in the race.
Oh, he did?
Yep.
Really? Okay, so there you go. There's some breaking news.
I don't know if that means anything, but
well, at least as for
after,
today.
After he said that, he's like, "I'll finish that 5K."
So, all right, I got this thing fixed. I don't know why.
Did you hear me? You missed my joke. I'll stay in the race. I'll finish that 5K. Sorry.
Let's see. Okay, so this chart is now back. I don't know why it disappeared, but here it is. So this is what's going on with the Bitcoin miners. So this is this 1 week. So this is Friday over Friday. While Bitcoin is down 6%, while Bitcoin is fighting maybe breaking out of the bottom end of its trading range, all 12 of these Bitcoin miners were up this week, and you have 2 that continue to outperform in a big way. Iris Energy up 33% this week. TeraWulf up 25% this week. Even a lot of these. Cypher up 13%. BitDeer 12. Bit Digital 12. Core Scientific 11. Hut 10. Hive 8. I mean, these were big, big up numbers. A couple that lagged. Bitfarms was only up. Riot 5. Bitfarms 4. Marathon +2. CleanSpark +1. So it's worth noting Marathon and CleanSpark are the 2 largest by market cap, and it seems like they are lagging. It's not their turn right now, and a lot of the other ones are accelerating, but they both were still, in a week where Bitcoin was red, down 6%, they were both green. So these are encouraging numbers across the board, and that is a continuation of, if we look, so not including what you just saw, this was as of last Friday, since everything bottomed on April 16th of this year, so that was 3.5 months into the year, the Bitcoin miners bottomed out. All the Bitcoin miners, with the exception of CleanSpark, were in the red. A lot of them were deep in the red. So in this 10.5 week period, not including what you just saw, you could see, moves 250% to the upside for Core Scientific, 171% to the upside for Iris Energy, prior to the 30% move on top of that this week. TeraWulf 145% to the upside prior to their 30% move this week, or 25% move this week. So you can see these 2 in particular have been giant movers. So a lot of momentum for the Bitcoin miners, even though Bitcoin continues to struggle. So this trend is encouraging. And today, above all other days, I would say today was one of the most encouraging from a price action standpoint on the Bitcoin miners, because we were in a scenario where it seemed like Bitcoin was in a free fall. So to get to the end of the day and pretty much see, more green by far than red for the large Bitcoin miners. And it's worth noting, the bottom of this list are the Bitcoin miners that I dropped. So you're going to see the micro nano cap Bitcoin miners, we're all in the red today. So it's part of the reason that the performance of the 2 groups have diverged. And, we voted on this and talked about this, and the vast majority of people did not want to see these tiny Bitcoin miners anymore. But they were all in the red, while most of the larger Bitcoin miners, and some big moves today. TeraWulf was up 7% today. Bitfarms was up 6% today. Hive was up 9.5%, and Bit Digital was up just under 9%. So it's worth noting Hive and Bit Digital, out of the 12 we're following, those are by far the smallest market caps. They're the only ones under $1 billion, and both of them going into today were under $400 million. I don't know if they moved above that, but so, you know, they're less than a half the next closest. And they had big moves to the upside today. Robin is saying Bitfarms will be the big winner next week. So I'm going to go back to a chart because somebody's saying when you zoom out, the Bitcoin miners look horrible. So it depends how far you zoom out for sure. But I will say, if we look at, let me go back to this. Let's go. So this was year to date as of last Friday. You're going to see 1, 2, 3, 4 of the Bitcoin miners have caught up and passed the performance of Bitcoin. 3 more were in the green. Cypher was 0, and Cypher this week was up 13%. So that's in the green now as well. And it's worth noting all the Bitcoin miners were up dramatically last year, 200, 300, 400%. So this is on top of those moves. Now, none of them are back to their highs from the previous cycle. CleanSpark is the closest, and they're still maybe 30% off of their high from the previous cycle. Most of them are significantly further off of their highs. So if you zoom out that far, there's still a long way to go just for them to get back to where they were. So that's going to be the question. Do these guys do, you know, that's the point of being in these miners, is for them to outperform Bitcoin. You know, some of you may be in Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners. Some of you may be in one or the other. So I'm encouraged by the Bitcoin miners' price action. Right, this chart, we talked about this on April 16th. This chart had one, CleanSpark was green, and everything else was red, and a lot of them were down 50, 60%. So you can see it is only now really Riot down 41%, and then Hive, which is one of the small ones, was down 32%. So those are your underperformers. These two, Bit Digital and Hive, are 2 of the 3 biggest underperformers, and they are the 2 smallest. So I do think I'm looking at these very closely. You know, I've been doing a little bit of options trading in these, but I'm looking at these as potential. And BitTier has turned into, you know, a significant AI play. And a lot of these Bitcoin miners are getting involved in the high performance computing / AI part of this equation. So actually, there was an article out, I think today or yesterday. I want to go to that. Okay, so this came out today. Private equity giants are circling Bitcoin miners on AI allure. So private equity firms are seeing value in partnering with Bitcoin miners to help with AI computing after Core Scientific signed a 200 megawatt deal with CoreWeave in June. We talked about this a lot on the channel. This is a 2-year deal, I think, with 2 5-year options that all in, and then they added 70 megawatts. It's now a 270 megawatt deal worth, you know, if this plays out all the way to the end, I think this is a $3.5 billion deal over 12 years. So it's a significant deal. You're starting to see some of the Bitcoin miners make bigger moves in the high performance computing, data center type stuff. And, you know, this is by far the biggest deal out of everybody. But Bit Digital actually had a really big deal based on their size as well. But this was from Adam Sullivan, who's the CEO of Core Scientific. So Core Scientific CEO Adam Sullivan said that since announcing the CoreWeave AI infrastructure deal, the company has received several approaches from top-tier private equity firms for financing and partnerships. So, you know, the top-tier, these equity firms are looking to potentially lend money to create, you know, have these Bitcoin mining companies create AI or high performance computing infrastructure. And, you know, this deal with that Core Scientific made with CoreWeave, actually CoreWeave is financing the infrastructure side of this. It was $290 million or $300 million, maybe it was. Hut 8 last week raised, I think, was it $150 million for future infrastructure relating to high performance computing and AI data centers. So, you know, you've got a bunch of these companies moving into that. I will also say that Bitfarms actually mentioned in their monthly operational report that they're starting to build out some infrastructure for high performance computing as well. So actually the majority of these companies now are at least dabbling. Most of them are in the very early stages of this. A few of them are starting to bring in some significant revenue. Iris Energy reported, I think, $1 million of revenue in their high performance computing in this monthly operational update. That versus, I think, $15 million of revenue from their Bitcoin. So, you know, it's still a smaller piece of the puzzle, but Iris, or Iron, I think they now want to be referred to as, you know, they boast themselves as a, you know, data center company. So I think, you know, there's a lot of these companies that are doing, you know, anywhere from dabbling to committing serious resources to data centers. So we're going to see how that plays out. And it looks like, you know, some private equity firms are looking to get into the deal on this. And the deal that Hut 8 did, I believe, was convertible. So it was convertible debt, so that potentially may end up being equity.
Anyways, it's scary to cheer for AI.
It's scary.
Yeah, I mean, it means it's taking jobs away from people.
Well, I don't know. Yes, maybe.
Yeah, yes, maybe.
I'm still Ironhead. Thanks for being a member. He said, "Have a great weekend." I'm out, so have a good weekend. I still feel like we need to see where all of this stuff goes. You know, this quote AI is a lot of high performance computing. It's, you know, massive data centers. It's certainly real, right? And there's a lot of money going into this. I'm not exactly sure where all this leads. That's my opinion. So let's do a poll on that one. We're going to end this one. 18% think we are at the end of our cycle for Bitcoin. We've peaked. Okay, so just a quick one on this note here. Do you want your Bitcoin miner, and by your Bitcoin miner, I mean if you're invested in one of these Bitcoin miners, do you want them in this AI high-performance computing data center stuff? Do you think this is a good diversification of streams of revenue? This is going to enhance profitability, maybe hedge the bets in, you know, a crypto bear market or the next crypto winter if there ever is one again? Scott Richardson is saying Bitcoin jumps 15,000 and nobody's going to be talking about the miners with AI. So I do think there's definitely, you know, that's a part of the equation as the Bitcoin continues. We're now 4+ months into this sideways move with the potential to the downside here today. We'll see what goes on. You know, at these lower numbers, this AI stuff is a bigger part of the equation. And AI is just hot right now. I don't care what company you are. If you put out a press release on AI, you're getting a big bump that day. That is just how it's played out. Crypto Fever, thank you for the super chat. Crypto Fever said, we'll be back over 60K by Monday. Mark it. Don't give in to the FUD. Well, I will be thrilled if that is true. I think that could be true. I mean, this is one of those scenarios. Like it looks like we're over this 56,500 at the moment. We still got a couple hours left. If we can be back over 60,000 on Monday, I will be thrilled. So that would be a good result in my opinion, Crypto Fever saying mark it down, don't give in to the FUD. So I will agree. I mean, the FUD can be overwhelming.
All right.
From my perspective, I think this was the worst, 24 to 36 hours of FUD in the last year, in my opinion. Sour Melon Gaming is saying, sorry, Tom, but I think Bitfarms could be a dud. With that being said, I have a very large position there. All I can tell you is I actually just talked to George. I don't think I said this on stream. Maybe I did on the members only stream. I think Bitfarms is the most undervalued Bitcoin miner. So that is probably, a lot of people are going to strenuously disagree with me on that. I know that they currently have no CEO. So I'm not ignoring that. I understand that's a situation. They've got some issues. But they more seem to be in the C-suite, in the management side of things. Operationally speaking, I thought their monthly operational report was excellent. And I think, they're doing the things they said they were going to do. I think this thing with Riot is in the rearview mirror. Riot put in a bid to buy them out at $2.30. Riot owns 14.9% of Bitcoin, of Bitfarms. So there could be a pull. If Riot, gives up on this bid and they dump that, it could be a short-term pullback in Bitfarms. But I like everything that I'm seeing. So that is my personal opinion. I think there's actually a lot of upside. If you look at their market cap, I'm going to go to this chart right now. So this is the results for June. This is the number of Bitcoin mined in June. So Bitfarms mined 189 Bitcoin in June. That was 21% more than they did in May. I think you can expect another 20% jump in July for Bitfarms in the number of Bitcoin that they mined. So this is a company trending in the right direction in a big way. They're doing the things they said that they were going to do. And from a market cap standpoint, you've got, Bitfarms mining 189 Bitcoin. BitDeer has a 50% bigger market cap than Bitfarms. They mined less Bitcoin. TeraWolf has about a 50% bigger market cap. They mined less Bitcoin. Cypher has about a 50% bigger market cap. They mined less Bitcoin. So to me, of these 1, 2, 3, 4, and I think these 4 are going to be, they're very different companies, but, the number of Bitcoin they mine is pretty close right now. I do think you're going to see Bitfarms pull away from this group. And I think Bitfarms has kind of locked themselves in 2024 here in 6th place. I feel like they're going to be able to hold this position. They're not going to catch Iris Energy. Iris has big growth plans. I do think Iris has a really good chance of catching Riot. But to go, to our earlier conversation, Riot had a 19% move month over month to the upside. And I expect them to have an even bigger move again. So there's Riot and Bitfarms were both up around 20% in June over May, and I think July will be the same results. So that is very strong back-to-back performance. So, one of these companies is trying to buy the other one. I believe that is going to, I think that's over. I don't think there's a deal to be made there. I've said that for the most part all along, and Riot has withdrawn their offer to buy them for $2.30. I think mostly because they're trading so much higher than that they knew that was not happening. But they still do want to make a deal. They're trying to get 3 members on the board of directors. So, Riot has not given up, but I don't see a path. And I think Bitfarms has a lot of upside. Yes, they don't have a CEO. So obviously, you want somebody, that's the person who's supposed to be steering the ship. And they don't have that person right now. So that's a big deal. But that's a potential, if they can find the right CEO, and their chances of doing that are getting better and better. When they were knee-deep in this battle with Riot, a month ago, I think it was starting to get really hard for them to recruit good talent at that position. But I think they're going to find the right person. So obviously, that's a guess at this point. But regardless, even with nobody in that position, operationally speaking, they're doing what they said they were going to do. And they had a very good, in my opinion, a very good June monthly operational update. So I think this is the 6th. I think they're going to be consistently the 6th most Bitcoin mined, and I think they're the 9th or 10th largest by market cap. So to me, that's where I think there's room potentially to the upside for Bitfarms. That's kind of my elevator speech on why I think Bitfarms has room to the upside. Obviously not financial advice, and that is just my opinion. And Robin is saying,
that
go ahead, George.
Riot is the most undervalued miner.
You know, the only reason I don't say that is Riot is valued almost triple what Bitfarms is. So, you know, they're already one of the big market caps, even though I agree there's a lot more room to the upside. When you compare them to the group that they're in, you could argue that, George, that Riot is, you know, potentially vying for most undervalued, right? Because they have more than they have over 9,000 Bitcoin. They have a lot of cash. When last noted, they had over, I think 1.2 or 1.3 billion dollars of liquidity. Very strong balance sheet. They've got 22 exahash now up. We'll see if they can get that operating. We want to see this number double sometime in the next 120 days. They got to get back into this group up here. Core Scientific, they should pass Core Scientific. Core Scientific actually has no plans for growth on their Bitcoin, self-mining Bitcoin mining that they've announced at all. Now, they're mining the third most amount of Bitcoin, so they have a very big operation. I just want to get to Clive. Clive is a member, so thanks for that, and thank you very much for the super chat. Clive said, I'm surprised that Amazon Web Services isn't capitalizing on hosting AI-related HPC data centers. What are your thoughts? My thoughts are exactly the same. They are a monster. They dwarf all of everything these companies do by a mile. So I do think when other companies move into this space, right now the gross profit margin some of these companies are getting on this stuff is spectacular, but I think you're going to see companies like this out there that have the ability at the snap of a finger to move into this space in a bigger way and potentially drive down the profitability and the gross profit margin. So, that doesn't mean they'll erase all of them, but yes, I mean, Amazon Web Services Amazon's a funny company. That's not even what you think about when you think about Amazon, but that is a gigantic, huge, that's $1 trillion part of their company. So they're many, many magnitudes bigger than all these companies put together. I mean, it's not even close. I don't love the AI part of this. I am warming up to it a little bit because I do see, this. Let's see how this contract with Core Scientific plays out with CoreWeave, because, that is potentially a gigantic contract. So if they can get that data center built, if they take those options, we're a couple of years out from knowing the answer to that. So I don't know. I prefer definitely to see my Bitcoin miners focus on Bitcoin mining, particularly right now, as I think we're, very early into this bull market, in my opinion, although 18% of the people in the last poll, for those of you who missed it, think the bull market is over, believe it or not. So thank you, Clive. Good question. So do you want your Bitcoin miner to be in the AI high-performance computing business? 68% say yes, they do. 32% say no. So a majority like this, like the diversification of revenue. In the short term, a lot of these contracts are much higher gross profit than the Bitcoin mining. Now, if Bitcoin does its thing, that won't be true. So we'll see what happens. And it's going to be hard. None of these companies, I shouldn't say that. Bit Digital has the potential to have a pretty even split between high-performance computing and Bitcoin mining. All the rest of these companies, their Bitcoin mining portion of their business dwarfs their high-performance computing. Even Core Scientific, with that massive contract, it still may only end up being maybe 30% of their revenue, which is quite significant. I mean, that's a big piece of the puzzle. Running Yotes, who is a member, thanks for being a member, said the last poll surprised me. The poll on end of the bull market, I think that was the last one, and if that's it, then yeah, that really really surprised me that we're close to 20% of the people think that this bull market is over. And that's people on this stream, which tend to be Bitcoin people. What's happening, George?
Nothing. It's just reading what Hard Knock wrote.
Why is George sulking?
I'm not. I'm deep in thought.
Do we want to know?
I'm having a really good conversation in my head.
You want to clue us in? Oh, by the way, if you guys would be so kind, you would think I could press a button. There. We're at 98 likes. Do us a giant favor. Get us over that 100 likes. It does help the live stream. We're getting close to wrapped up here, so we would appreciate it to get over those 100 likes. And we are still struggling. If you see the 15-minute time frame chart is up, Bitcoin is still just sitting right at this line. So, we're going to find out shortly if we can close this daily candle above this line. Again, I don't know how much of a difference it is if it's $80 under the line or $80 over the line. I think what today I think is going to end up proving is that we're struggling here at this line of support, and we're not going to find out probably until the end of the day Monday, unless something big happens over the weekend, as to whether or not this stays support or turns into short-term resistance. So I think we're all hoping, well, shouldn't assume that. Maybe some people would like to see a little more of a pullback and to fill out some more of their positions. But I never root for that. It's always one of those careful what you wish for. If the pullbacks happen, yes, you try and take advantage of them, but I never root for them. We're over 100 likes. Thank you very much, everybody. Much appreciated.
So, Tom, did you make this a monetized stream? Or
yes.
no?
Yes.
Did anybody see any commercials?
Yeah, drop in the chat if you guys saw any commercial interruptions.
I was just curious. Probably now they don't like us because... What should I do for dinner, Tom? What are you doing for dinner?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Friday is
always a mystery.
Friday is my cheat day for my diet, if you can call it that. So hopefully I'll do something good. Sour Melon Gaming saw one commercial. Thank you for responding. And Brett is saying, how can the cycle be over? Question mark, exclamation point. I agree with you, Brett. I don't, we took a poll and some people think that. I saw some YouTubers out there saying that as well. But to me, I don't think that makes any sense. I find that to be a highly unlikely scenario. But, you can never say never. Running Yotes, thank you so much for the super chat. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I love these streams. I appreciate the work you put into them. Well, thank you. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for being a member. Glad you join us. We've been doing this for a long time, and I know retail investors, and these streams are kind of showing this. Retail are numbers. Retail investors have lost interest in Bitcoin. They've lost interest in the Bitcoin miners, although the Bitcoin miners are rallying. I don't think it's the retail investors. Particularly in Bitcoin, we see retail investing activity, tapering off. So this is a part of the cycle. This is like the dog days of summer, whatever that means. And I think we're in them. Well, George, what did you call it?
Summer of hell? No.
The summer of hell. Before this summer started. That was what George thought was coming. So, we're now many months into very uninspiring action from Bitcoin. So, but again, if you look back at the charts over time, this is what we get. Seeker said, Joey Chestnut says hot dogs. Not to get off track, but for 30 seconds, Joey Chestnut, who was the 16-time champion of the Nathan's Coney Island hot dog eating contest was banned from competing this year because he had a deal, I think, with Impossible Foods, which is a plant-based hot dogs.
So why he didn't do it?
Yeah, he was.
All right. Oh, I didn't know that.
And they did put out a press release that said he is welcome back. They want him to come back, but they can't, for as long as he has a deal with a competitor, he's not allowed to compete. Prior to that, if you guys remember, and probably nobody remembers or cares about any of this, Kobayashi, I think, won 6 or 7 years in a row and kind of put the thing on the map. These guys are eating 70 hot dogs in 10 minutes, so I won't get too deep into it. It's kind of gross to even watch. But with Joey Chestnut out, the winner, so his record is 76 hot dogs in 10 minutes. The winner this year had 58 hot dogs.
Wow.
So
that's nothing.
That's how much
that's
of a
dip.
Yeah, exactly. We got a buddy that can do that. So
the problem is the bread.
They do get to dunk the bread in water. I will say they have to eat the hot dogs and the bread, but they eat them separately and they dunk it in water, so that makes a gigantic difference. I know maybe most of you don't care that much about this, but for whatever reason, it's a 4th of July tradition here in the United States. And I know we have people from all over the world, so if you're elsewhere in the world, you probably think we're nuts for talking about a hot dog eating contest.
Dude, it looks like we're going to hold it, Tom. That's huge if we hold that line.
If we can hold that line, that would be very encouraging. And we got Robin saying we're at the doorstep of going parabolic. So I'm optimistic. I don't know when. This is the game I won't get in, as you guys know, and to maybe frustrate some people. I don't know what today brings, tomorrow brings. I just, I'm looking at the bigger picture. I'm still the same amount bullish on Bitcoin as I was yesterday or a week ago or a month ago. I still have a price target of north of $150,000, in my opinion, for this Bitcoin bull market, this bull run, this 4-year cycle. So, I don't know if we're 6 months away from that, 12 months away from that, but I do think we're going to have, something that resembles a normal. And a part of that is going to be, I think, an easing of the monetary policy and some rate cuts and some money infusion into the market. I do want to look at one chart because we've had a little bit of a weird thing happen. Actually, a couple things, and then we'll wrap it up. This is unusual. We're now a week into the DXY pulling back. And simultaneously, Bitcoin has been plummeting. That is not usually how this works. So the FUD that we are getting from Mt. Gox, whatever the reality ends up being, the FUD is real because in a time where really we should have had a nice rally. There's been a really strong correlation. It's not perfect. There have been other weeks where this has not lined up, but in general, this correlation between the DXY, which is the strength of the US dollar versus a basket of foreign currencies, in general, this inverse relationship has been extremely strong. So to see this pullback, for a week and a half here and have Bitcoin continue to plummet is not normal. So, this is a temporary, so this may correct itself. We'll see what happens here, but I wanted to point it out because it is unusual. And while that's happening, these are the cues. So this is the NASDAQ hit a new all-time high again yesterday and today. Wednesday and today. So the NASDAQ continues to hit new all-time highs. If I go to the SPX, which is the S&P 500, the S&P 500 continues to hit new all-time highs. So the markets are raging. Really, it's just Bitcoin. Well, it's cryptocurrency that's having a bad little period here. The market overall is raging. The Bitcoin miners, being equities and a part of this side of the equation, fortunately, they actually have been doing very well. So we'll just go back and take a look. This was this week for the Bitcoin miners. So very, very green week, in a week where Bitcoin is at the bottom of this list in gold, down 6%. a great week for most of the Bitcoin miners. A couple lagged behind. The two largest by market cap, Marathon and CleanSpark, lagged behind a little bit, but still significantly outperformed Bitcoin. So a very encouraging week. And if you happen to be in Iris or TerraWolf, you know, these two are on a tear right now, and that continued. So, you know, congratulations. Old Jack said, sounds delicious, bread and water with a sausage made out of, yeah. Yeah, I know. It's not, and watching it sometimes can be pretty rough too. Back to the hot dog eating contest.
Melly, I gave up Fortnite.
You gave it up?
I haven't played ever since. Yep, nope.
For good?
Yeah, for good, probably for good.
For good. Well, time will tell if it is for good. But
I got too much to do, Tom. Too much to do.
I hear you. I know it's the days are busy. Pogo, welcome to the stream. Said, sorry I'm late. What a day. Hate how paper-handed I have become. So, and Sour Melon Gaming's asking, so you sold? So we'll see. We did take a poll earlier. Almost nobody here on our stream said that they sold today. The majority held. I think 50% held, 40-something% bought, and a small percent sold today. So if we go back to the 50, I mean, we are just on the line. So time will tell. This daily candle is going to close in, I think, 2 hours. Is that right? So we got 2 more hours to see if we can hold this line of support. If I go to the 1 day, you'll see a little more what we're talking about here. If I zoom in, right, we hit this low. We candle wick down to exactly 56,500 back on May 1st. So over 2 months ago. That has held since that day. We did candle wick down. We have a new lower low, but we may close above this line on it from a daily candle standpoint. So that would be a little bit of encouragement going into the weekend. Also, it is very encouraging that the majority of the Bitcoin miners were up today, up big this week. Jonathan Fish, thank you very much for the super chat. Much appreciated. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining us.
Pogo sold his shit coins and I bought them.
Ah.
That's funny.
Yeah, George mentioned earlier in the stream he did buy and what he bought was some altcoins. I bought more BitX is what I did, and not a lot. I'm very, you know, I've long since said I feel like my positions are full, but on, you know, some of these days with these giant dips, I am dollar cost averaging a little bit in, you know, I hate to miss an opportunity, and we may go lower, and if we do, then I'll do a little bit more. That's the plan anyway. All right.
I need XRP to take off, Tom. If you guys knew how much XRP I had, you'd think I was enough.
Well, XRP is the ultimate game of patience. It's one of the oldest cryptocurrencies, and, you know, it's obviously it had a lot hanging over its head for a long time. I think it's going to participate in altcoin season and have a big run up. That's my opinion. And, you know, I'm not the altcoin person on this channel at all, but that's my 2 cents, I guess, is what I would say. Not financial advice for sure.
I mean, it's got to move eventually. I mean, I couldn't even, I can't believe how much it's crazy. You know, if it goes to $1, Tom.
It just, well, that's right. Then buy some Shiba Inu. If that goes to $1, you'll be.
I do.
I love the if it just goes to $1 argument. It's like you can't create 1 trillion coins and then say, well, if it just gets to $1, well, everybody will be rich.
I know XRP's dead. That's why I guess I got it. I didn't buy any X Punk. No X bugs.
Man, we are just, this is 3:15, 4 15-minute candles in a row. 5. This one finished on the line, and now we are just
Now look, yeah, it's right there.
completely sideways. So that's gonna be a foot race right to the end of the day today.
That tells the future right there. By the way.
You feel like this is the decider? If we can close above this, then
Yep.
Then
Then
we're
good
up
things.
from there.
Yeah.
Boy, I'll tell you what, if we end up
crazy.
going up from here, that would be a heck of a thing, because for me, this was the biggest panic day I've seen in retail investing so far in the last 12 months.
Yeah, this was a humdinger.
Yeah, and maybe sometimes that's the ultimate cue that was the bottom, right? Max fear,
Right.
panic. But we'll see. We're certainly not calling the bottom, and we're at a tipping point here one way or the other. So we'll see what happens. Any other parting thoughts, George?
Oh, try Caspa. Is that the one that what's the coin that Marathon's mining, Tom?
That is the one. That's the one you and I talked
Caspa.
about.
Caspa.
Caspa, right. So Marathon did put out a press release. They are a significant Caspa, and I don't own any Caspa. It's hard to even get it in the United States.
I think you can only get it on KuCoin, right?
KuCoin. It's proof of work. Marathon is by far, I think, the biggest part of their network, and they plan on doubling the amount of mining that they're going to do for Caspa. So, and they're talking about 90% type gross profit margins mining Caspa for now. So we'll see what happens. But that is, Marathon put out a specific press release regarding that, and it is a proof of work. And I will tell you, my personal opinion, I have a lot more confidence in these proof of work coins. So I don't know a lot about Caspa. I know, the one thing I know about it is, well, two things. One, it's proof of work, and two, Marathon is a big part of the global Caspa network. Their mining capacity. So that could be a good thing. That could be something that is of interest.
It was a lot of fun.
Thank you, George. Thank you, everybody. Much appreciated as always. I hope you guys enjoy your weekend. I hope everybody's portfolio did okay this week.
And let's see. Thank you for whoever has made us safe out there and served in the military.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you.
So
I actually said thank you for the people that have died protecting our freedoms. That was my prayer yesterday. Because I mean, we take it for granted, but still, the United States is a very free country, and it's because of our forefathers. So
that was a very good sentiment. Of course, much appreciated to all who serve. Crypto, just close out with Crypto Fever. If it's 1% of the operations bringing in the profit, it doesn't mind. I'm on board with it. I think, is that Caspa? Or is that High Performance Computing? John Q. Public said, thanks, Tom. So thank you guys. Thanks again. Special thanks to all the members, all the subscribers, everybody who smashed the like button. If you didn't smash the like button, you can do it on the way out. It still helps the stream. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing to the channel. Have a fantastic weekend. Thank you, George, for your time as well.
you too, Tom.
All right. Have
See
a
you,
great
everyone.
weekend, everyone.